If you look at anyone who's accumulated a lot of money really fast, it comes down to one major thing, and it's making sure you have control of the majority of your assets. If you're new to my channel, my name is Pascal. I've been in the life, health, and retirement space for over 8 years, and I've been helping people with different strategies to structure plans for their future. If you're interested in this type of content, make sure you follow this page. I want to relay this back to a story that my business partner Brandon talked about that he was going through when he was going through his transition of leaving his job to work full-time in the life, health, and retirement space, similar to what I'm doing. He talked about how he was investing in a 401k, putting money aside for his future, right? And when he decided to leave and go into financial services full-time, he had about, I believe, 6,000 accumulated in his 401k. And what he realized is when he actually ended up with trying to withdraw the money, he only could access around 3,000 of it, along with penalty fees and taxes. And the reason why is because when it comes to most company 401ks, they have a vesting schedule. Not all companies have this, but majority of companies do. For his vesting schedule, it was 5 years. So he had to work at the particular company for 5 years before he actually ended up keeping the entire 6,000. So he came in the mindset of like, okay, I'm fine with the taxes and penalty fees. I'm just going to withdraw this cash and be able to use it to start my business. But he actually ended up realizing he only ended up having 3,000 that he could actually take and access from it. Then he also had to pay income tax and penalty fees from it. And it always goes back to that same concept that I started in the beginning. If you give up control of the majority of your money, it's going to be really hard to build wealth and take advantage of opportunities and problems that might arrive. There used to be the old way of living: invest 10% of your income, have 3 to 6 months in savings, and just forget it, right? This was kind of like the old strategy. But I think with the cost of living rising and everything getting more expensive, I don't think that's enough. I think you have to have a better and more optimal strategy when it comes to planning for your future. Because what happens if your car breaks down, something in your house breaks down, you want to take advantage of some sort of business opportunity? If the majority of your money is in a 401k or IRA type strategy, what do you really do in reality? Because the major problems with most Americans is they don't have enough savings, and later on when they retire, they're going to pay massive income taxes later. Because the statistics are about 60% of Americans don't have $1,000 for an emergency, and it's a problem of also positioning your money in the wrong place, only investing in a 401k. And most of the assets or most of the money that people are saving for retirement is just getting directed into a 401k or IRA environment. Basically, they're giving away all control of their money to a third party versus having money and controlling it themselves. So they're exposing themselves to a massive amount of tax risk and a massive amount of liquidity risk. And a big reason why people tend to do this, they do this not knowingly, because financial literacy is really a lost art in the United States nowadays. Because there was actually something stated by the World Economic Forum where they basically tested people on basic financial literacy questions on risk management and compound interest. And over 70% of Americans couldn't answer like basic questions like, what's more risky, a blue chip stock versus emerging market company, or how does compound interest work? Just simple questions on that and ways to manage your risk. They weren't able to answer a lot of those questions. So if you don't really know what type of target you're actually trying to hit, how you actually supposed to hit it, and that comes down to just financial literacy in general. So if you're saving in the wrong places, you might be over leveraging or taking too much risk in one area. And if you want to be more intentional with your finances, I want to talk about two particular pillars you need to focus on. And it's how your money gets taxed and how your money grows. So if you think about how your money gets taxed, when it comes to working income, you pay taxes now. Working income, if you're investing in money markets, you have money in a brokerage account, these are things that get taxed right away. There is no tax consequence later on. You pay the taxes at the end of the tax year. That's taxed now in terms of whether it's working income or just naked brokerage accounts or money markets. The second category is tax deferred. This is going to be your IRAs, your 457s, your 403bs, 401ks. These are tax deferred. So essentially what you're doing with tax deferred assets, you're putting money aside, you're taking a deduction now on your income. Say you make $100,000 and you put $20,000 into a 401k, you pay taxes on $80,000 and you don't pay taxes on it right away. It's only when you withdraw when you're 60 years old, that's when you pay full income tax on your money when you take distributions from your 401k. And you pay income taxes, which is the highest type of tax you could pay. And that's the danger when it comes to tax deferred assets. Tax advantage assets, in terms of ways you could pay taxes now and then not pay taxes later, this would be things like cash value life insurance and Roth accounts. And one of the few assets that can give you tax deductions on your income too as well is real estate too as well. Sometimes real estate can fall in the category of tax advantage because it could actually lower the amount of total income you get and also potentially cash flow tax free if you have real estate professional status. I'm not going to go too much into that in this video, but sometimes real estate can give you tax advantage status too as well and lower your taxable income. And when it comes to money growing, it's really going to grow two ways primarily. It's going to grow on the fixed side or it's going to grow on the variable side. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So you put money in a savings account. Nowadays, high yield savings account, they pay 4%. It's fixed, but there's no risk correlation to it, right? So this is why people say have 3 to 6 months in savings, because you could always access that money and take care of any sort of problem opportunity. To be honest, I don't think that's enough. I think there's ways you can save a lot more with hedging against a lot of the things that you might want to, like inflation. And I'm gonna get into that later in the video. But savings is basically a way to hedge against risks that might happen, like unexpected problems, unexpected opportunities. That's what savings are for. Just having a regular savings account, maybe a money market, or a whole life policy, a whole life insurance policy where it's just money you're putting aside and you could still access it. This would be fixed, right? Where you're basically getting 4% rate of return, 3% rate of return, just depending on where you're saving your money, right? The other way is variable. This is investing in the stock market. This is investing in real estate. This is investing in maybe a business. These things are unpredictable returns in terms of what you're going to get. They could go up, they could go down. It just depends on how the market performs or how your business is doing. And this is where you could actually excel and make a lot of money, is by taking a lot of risks, right? But the problem is people don't manage their risk well. In order to be able to take advantage of certain opportunities, you actually need to have some sort of saving. But what if there was a way you could have basically 2 years of savings, maybe even 3 years of savings? You don't have to worry about market risk, and you don't have to worry about inflation. You don't have to worry about not having access to your money. You don't have to worry about taxes. What if there was a way you could structure your financial plan for the future where you could hedge against all of those risks, you can still invest, and you're not worried about inflation risk? And that's why people invest. They want to hedge against inflation. They want to make sure their money isn't, their value isn't diluted. But what if there's a way you could be more strategic with your investments and just still hedge against that without taking a ton of risk? And that's what I'm going to go over in this video. So there's 4 main risks when it comes to saving or investing your money anywhere. There's going to be tax risk. There is going to be liquidity risk. There is going to be inflation risk. And there's going to be market risk. So where most people are taking risks, they're either investing in a 401k or they have some sort of savings, right? That's typically what people have when it comes to saving or investing for retirement or just having access to money. When you're just saving money, right? Obviously you have liquidity, you have instant access to your money, so you would have liquidity, but what risk are you taking? You're taking also inflation risk, right? Because the value of your dollar gets less and less. You're not taking market risk, and there isn't much tax risk because your money doesn't grow. And that's why people invest. Hence the 401k, right? Where people put, deferred money and invest into mutual funds, right? When they're doing that, they're taking market risk, but instead now they're taking liquidity risk because they don't have access to the money when they're saving or investing in a 401k. And that leads to problem in terms of when you put money in one basket, you're kind of taking another risk, right? But what if there is a way with one plan, you can hedge against all these risks at the same time? You can do that with a cash value life insurance policy. And with these policies, you can have access to 80%, sometimes even 90% of the cash value. It's not as liquid as the bank, obviously, but you have a lot less liquidity risk than you would have in, say, a 401k. You're also not taking tax risks when it comes to saving in a cash value life insurance policy. You are taking upfront taxes, but you're not taking tax later on. Your money grows tax free, and you also can access your money tax-free. Money accumulates, you don't have to pay taxes on the distribution, right? And it hedges against inflation. Depending on the policy you get, there's obviously whole life or index universal life where this concept will work. Where with index universal life, you could earn up to 10%. You have a guaranteed floor of zero based on stock market gains. And as you can see, the stock market has been going up. So you could earn all the way up to 10%. Generally speaking, when inflation goes up, so does the market, right? So you're hedging against inflation risk by saving in an index universal life policy where it's linked to stock market growth, but you're guaranteed a floor of zero so you don't lose money due to market risk. That's a great thing when it comes to cash value life insurance policies that are linked to market indexes. And you also protect it against market risk. So even if the market goes down 20%, you don't lose any money due to market risk. So essentially, with one plan, you're hedging against all four of the major risks that most people take saving and investing their money anywhere. So think about it, right? People tend to put their money in 401ks because, I have to hedge against inflation. I want to make sure the value of my dollar doesn't decrease. But how much more stable of a financial situation would you be in, or would you feel like you're in, if you had 3 years of savings, 5 years of savings? And you can do that with a cash value life insurance policy because you're hedging against all these risks. You wouldn't want to do that with your savings because eventually it's just going to be it's just going to be worth zero, right? Just leaving your money in the bank and not earning any interest. But you're able to do that with a cash value life insurance policy and build a more stable financial situation where you're hedging against all the major risks. But if a problem comes up, like something your house breaks down or your car breaks down, or if you have an opportunity you want to take advantage of, like investing in your business on some sort of venture, you have the capital to essentially access tax-free without market risk and no penalties. You can access your money within a week if your policy is structured correctly. There was actually an Ernst & Young study, which is one of the big four accounting firms that went over the most optimal ways to retire in the future. And it talked about basically saving your money in investments, cash value life insurance, and annuities, right? This was the best way to get the optimal retirement outcome. And they ran over 1,000 different outcomes in terms of what retirement could be in the future. And they realized the majority of the ones that produced the most income in retirement were the combinations of annuities, life insurance, and also investments. And a big reason for that is something known as sequence of return risk. When the market goes down and you're retired, you still need retirement income to pay for food, pay for groceries, pay for rent. You're still going to need access to your money. But when you have asset classes where you're protected against market risk to some extent, you can take advantage more of those asset classes that aren't as correlated with market risk and give your portfolio a little bit more time to rebound and bounce back versus just assuming 20% losses. And I want to give you an example of someone that's 40 years old, maybe they're saving around $700 a month into their life insurance policy, and how they're able to hedge against different types of risks versus just saving all their money in a 401k and basically exposing themselves to massive market risk and tax risk. I'm going to show an example of exactly how that could work and how that could be implemented into a certain plan. In this example, I'm showing you a client that's a 45-year-old male saving $700 a month. Maybe he has a 401k and he's taking the match and he just wants to put excess money in a place where it's safe, there's no market risk correlations, and he could build excess savings and have supplemental tax-free income later on, right? So here I'm showing the 8,400 premium going in, and it's earning a 5.7% average rate of return on the policy, right? It could be more. Typically with index universal life policies, it's going to be a rate of around 5 to 7%. Just depends. Could be lower, could be higher. Just depends. So when it comes to the accumulation value you have in the policy, you can see it's close to $7,000, right? And the cash surrender value is $3,600 approximately. And this is the money that's accessible that you could basically borrow against whenever you need it for any sort of problem opportunity. And the net death benefit is $156,000, right? So basically, if you pass away, that's what would go to beneficiary of his choice. And the reason why it's a very exact number is because we're trying to solve something known as the minimum non-MEC amount getting put into the policy, basically minimizing the insurance costs and maximizing the cash value. And you could see even the next year, there's more access to money. It's around 11,000. And then next year after that, it's 18,000. You have much more than 2, maybe even 3 years of savings built into this policy once you accumulate enough cash in it. And whenever you need it for a problem or opportunity, you could always borrow against it, pay for that, and then eventually put the money back in if you want to, right? It's a secured non-recourse loan, so you don't have to actually pay the loan back, right? And in this policy, as you can see, after 10 years of contributing to the policy, you don't have to contribute another premium into it. The policy at that point, considering gets even a 3% rate of return, is going to grow on its own. And this alternate column is basically saying if you use the insurance general account, just earn a fixed 3.5% rate of return, and you'll see the policy still grows even with that. And this would happen year after year just by just earning the 5.7% rate of return. And let's say he decides he wants to take income, say at age 60, he could get 64,000 of approximate projected income lifetime from this policy, considering a 5.7% rate of return continuously, essentially for the rest of his life. And with this particular policy, there's something known as a lifetime provision where it could just pay out all the way up until 120. And the other column shows what it would look like at a 3.5% rate of return. And we actually have some clients that save large lump sums into their policy where they could get access to basically 80-90% of the policy within the first 30 days. But typically, that only makes sense if you're contributing a larger chunk of money. If you're starting with $700, it might make sense to just build it up first so there's no added costs to your policy. If you're enjoying content like this, make sure you follow this page. I go over concepts on life, health, and retirement all the time. So if you enjoy our financial improvement content, like, comment, and subscribe. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.